Live from WTOC, the Southeast news leader. The News Now starts on WTOC Plus.
Well, thanks for joining us here on WTOC Plus. We continue to track that major crash on I-16 near exit 166 that's closed multiple lanes throughout the morning. This is something we've been following both on air and online here on WTOC. And we do now have crews at the scene. I'm going to bring in our very own Cam McCann, who joins us. Cam, what do we know right now about this crash?
Yeah, Jude, about this crash, it happened around 9:05, or at least that's when Savannah Fire Department was called in about a semi that was overturned. You can kind of see it right over there, right by that sign for Gwinnett, Louisville, and Hutchinson Island. That road, there's no cars going into Savannah off I-16 right now. That road is shut down, and there's a bunch of agencies that are currently working on it. You've got GDOT. We've got Savannah Fire, Savannah Police. Garden City's fire department was called in because of their tanker that they have. City's traffic engineer, their city's street sweepers. They've got a towing company over there. A lot of agencies are coming together to work on this right now. And the estimated time, I spoke with one of the Savannah police officers, one of the captains that's currently on scene. He says right around 1 to 3 p.m. is when they're estimated to open it back up. But for now, people are being redirected before they can even get to this bridge right here and get off 37th and Abercorn Street, that exit that you see, exit 165. And so people are being turned away before then, and they're unable to come through Savannah through its main road, I-16.
All right, well, Cam, thanks for joining us here on WTOC Plus for that update. I know this is something we'll continue to follow. You'll have some more details coming up at the top of the hour at noon. But again, it sounds like that we do expect to have that lane closure essentially through the afternoon. 1 to 3 is what word is from SFD. Thanks for joining us, Cam.
One more thing, Jude.
Go ahead.
One more thing. The driver of the vehicle, the overturned semi-truck, was transported by EMS away from the scene. Just minor injuries. I don't know if you saw in our B-roll shots, in our video that was posted online, that vehicle was on fire. Thankfully, that driver got out just in the nick of time to get away from the vehicle. Just minor injuries. I believe SFD, the Savannah Fire Department, reported something about a shoulder injury, but thankfully nothing in regards to the fire that started.
Good to know. All right, Cam, thanks for joining us with that update here on WTOC Plus. We'll see you again in just about an hour. Thank you. Well, we are going to continue with our top headlines for the day here on WTOC Plus. We do have a fire to tell you about that happened overnight at around 12:50. SFD crews were dispatched to the 1900 block of East Gwinnett Street. Now, in a Facebook post, SFD says smoke and flames were visible upon arrival. They say all occupants were out of the building when crews arrived. Now, their last update as of 1:24 a.m. said that the fire was fully put out. No injuries were reported. However, 2 residents and 2 dogs have been displaced. Turning now to the crime watch and a story we've been following since yesterday evening. Savannah police responded to the Abercorn Target parking lot around 4:30 yesterday after reports of a shooting outside of the Target store. Alderman Curtis Purdy told Facebook that Savannah police reported the shooting, saying an argument broke out over a parking spot. When police arrived, they found a man who had been shot, and that man did later die at the hospital from his injuries. Savannah police confirmed the suspect was arrested. However, they haven't released his name yet. Savannah Mayor Van Johnson also spoke about yesterday's shooting, saying in part, quote, "No disagreement over a parking space or anything else should ever end in the loss of life. This needless, unnecessary violence underscores the daily pain felt by families across our city and the urgency of our collective work to reduce gun violence and strengthen community safety." As you mentioned, the suspect's name has not yet been released. We have put in multiple requests to Savannah police and are waiting to get those details back. Turning now to news out of the Low Country. 1 person is dead and 2 others have been injured after a shooting in Hampton County yesterday morning. SLED tells WTOC that they were requested by the Hampton County Sheriff's Office to investigate the incident. The 2 people injured in the shooting were taken to the hospital for treatment. No other details have been released, but we will continue to keep you updated as more information comes in. All right, turning now to international news from over the weekend. Today, former Venezuela President Nicolas Maduro and his wife are expected to be arraigned in a New York courtroom on narco-terrorism-related charges. The 2 were captured during a military operation in Venezuela and transported to the United States over the weekend. CBS News' Bradley Blackburn has the latest from New York.
Video shows Venezuela's former president Nicolas Maduro being taken from a Brooklyn detention center to await his day in court. Soon, he and his wife, Celia Flores, are expected to make their first appearance in a Manhattan federal court on drug, weapons, and narco-terrorism charges.
There will be more security around him, obviously, but it will be fairly procedural.
On Saturday, the U.S. military carried out the operation that led to their capture in Venezuela's capital city of Caracas, igniting new uncertainty over the country's future.
We're in charge.
The president faced new questions Sunday over who's running Venezuela.
Venezuela right now is a dead country. We have to bring it back, and we're going to have big investments by the oil companies.
Venezuela's new interim president, former Vice President Delcy Rodriguez, issued a statement calling for peaceful coexistence. President Trump says she's cooperating, though in an interview with The Atlantic, he also warned, quote, if she doesn't do what's right, she is going to pay a very big price.
As the Trump administration and Justice Department lawyers prepare for court today, there's a different reaction on Capitol Hill, where some lawmakers are now slamming the Venezuela operation as illegal.
The Constitution is really pretty clear that the representatives of the people get to be consulted and ultimately approve military activity. That has not happened here.
Multiple sources familiar tell CBS News White House officials are expected to give a classified briefing to lawmakers later this afternoon. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News, New York.
And speaking of Capitol Hill, today is Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene's final day in office. She says she's stepping down to avoid a hurtful primary race for the District 14 seat. Greene announced back in November she'd be stepping down following a public falling out with President Donald Trump after she criticized his stances on files related to Jeffrey Epstein, along with foreign policy and health care. Trump said he would have backed one of her challengers when she made the announcement.
And I do not want my sweet district to have to endure a hurtful and hateful primary against me by the president that we all fought for, only to fight and win my election while Republicans will likely lose the midterms.
Greene has also vocalized major pushback against the administration's Venezuela operation, saying she wants to see domestic policy be the priority that helps Americans and not taking over Venezuela. In state news, this is happening right now. The 3 inmates who escaped the DeKalb County Jail are in court in the state of Florida. Mary Kate Hamilton with our sister station has more details.
That's right. That hearing was set to start in Florida at 9 o'clock this morning. The 3 face federal kidnapping charges and will be extradited back to Georgia for additional charges. The 3 escaped the DeKalb County Jail and then forced a rideshare driver to drive them to Florida, threatening to kill, sexually assault, and torture her. Yusuf minors Stevenson Charles and Naod Johannes escaped sometime on Sunday, December 21st. They were in the DeKalb County Jail on charges including murder, arson, sodomy, and aggravated assault. However, the exact details of their escape, including the precise timeline and how they were actually able to do it, have not been released. The DeKalb County Sheriff's Office says those details will not be released for fear of future security breaches.
We would not like to be more specific as not to give out the person's ideas of how to further compromise this building, but we're making some adjustments.
We are monitoring what happens in federal court today. In DeKalb County, Mary Kate Hamilton, Atlanta News First.
All right, well, we're taking a live look now at the nation's capital on the right of your screen, where lawmakers are returning to work this week. However, they're returning without a deal on health care. Affordable Care Act tax credits, it did expire last month, leaving 1.4 million Georgians with higher premiums in the new year. As Doug Reardon reports, that change is forcing some families to leave the state.
and we'll have to uproot everything, our home, and we're leaving family behind here. It's heartbreaking.
Judy Krebs has been a Dahlonega resident for 27 years. She also used Enhanced Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare, subsidies that expired with the new year. It drastically reduced her premiums.
The bill was something like about $800 a month. But with the subsidies, it was $97 a month.
With a husband who battled cancer and a daughter with chronic illness, the low cost was literally life-saving. But when Judy checked the exchange without the subsidies,
it went up to $1,100 a month.
And the deductible, $8,500, and Judy is on the ACA's cheapest plan. Judy and her family are now moving north and leaving Georgia for a state with a better state-based exchange. She has to be able to afford her health care, but it's more than frustrating.
Not even beyond frustrated. I'm words that can't be used on television for how upset, I am. I'm heartbroken, right? I'm a Georgian. I don't want to move.
Georgia Democrats have proposed a bill that would mimic the savings offered by the subsidies and will try to get it passed when they return to the Capitol in 2 weeks.
Over the next few months, in these hallways and around this state, we're going to be laser focused on showing the people of this state which part is about finding solutions and which part is about politics.
Georgia's Republican lawmakers say the state already has an exchange. What the federal government does, that's beyond their control.
We are not here to clean up any messes that are going on in Washington. But for the hysteria to get started here in the state is just unwarranted now, and I think it's unwarranted in the future.
Doug Reardon, Atlanta News First.
All right, before we continue with the rest of our stories, we do have breaking news. This is just into our newsroom less than 10 minutes ago, relating to the Target parking lot shooting that happened over the weekend that we told you about at the top of the show. We now know the name of the man who was arrested. We just got this email from Savannah Police, so I'm going to just read it off my computer. They say that Savannah Police have arrested 30-year-old Tyler Lynn in connection to that fatal shooting outside of the Target parking lot. Savannah Police say that officers responded to that shooting around 4:10 yesterday, where they found an adult male with gunshot wounds who was taken to a hospital where he ultimately died. They said that suspect did remain on scene. Lynn is being charged with murder and aggravated assault. SPD says the investigation is ongoing. But again, just into our newsroom, the name of the person arrested in that deadly Target parking lot shooting over the weekend, 30-year-old Tyler Lynn. We will continue to keep tabs on that story as well as we learn more. We are going to turn now to health news because we are continuing to track the alarming increase in measles cases across South Carolina. The state's Department of Public Health reported 9 new measles cases just in the last week. That brings the total number of cases in the upstate region to 185. It is the first time in more than 30 years that the U.S. has passed more than 2,000 measles cases nationwide. The Atlanta-based CDC says the last time the U.S. had this many cases was back in 1992.
We don't generally see waning immunity from measles vaccination. We know that no vaccination offers 100% protection, but the measles vaccine is one of the most effective vaccines that we have available.
As a reminder, measles is contagious for 8 days, 4 days before a rash shows up, as well as 4 days after. Doctors say you should also watch for a cough, fever, runny nose, and red eyes. And flu cases are also spiking across the country, especially for the youngest of patients here in the state of Georgia. According to the CDC, Georgia's flu activity is in the very high category. Nationwide, the agency estimates at least 7.5 million illnesses, 81,000 hospitalizations, and 3,100 deaths from the flu so far this season. One pediatrician says the flu's subclass strange, or mutations, may lead to more cases, making vaccinations even more critical.
Because what may happen, even though it's a subclass, with the protection that you do have from the vaccine, it can decrease the severity. It can decrease the amount of days that you may be sick.
For those who choose not to vaccinate, make sure to wash your hands often and cover your mouth when you cough or sneeze. In sports news, the Atlanta Falcons have parted ways with their head coach Raheem Morris and general manager Terry Fontenot. A couple moves that shouldn't necessarily come as a surprise after the Falcons' 8th straight losing season. They haven't made the playoffs since 2017. That's the second longest streak among active NFL teams. Now, the Falcons announced last night that they're cleaning house. Morris leaves Atlanta with an overall record of 16-18 after just 2 seasons. 4 of those wins came in the last 4 weeks this season. Meanwhile, for the GM, he hasn't had a winning season since he took over the role in 2021. The Falcons say there's no timeline for when a new coach and GM will come in this offseason, but it will happen at the same time. And finally, this new year means new beginnings for many, and for some it could mean looking for a new job. Many career experts say January is a good time to start applying. That's in part because companies typically reset their budgets in January and have a stronger ability to hire. But we are in a tough climate for job seekers. Recruiting firm Robert Half recommends widening your job search. So if you want to work in marketing, they say to try applying to industries outside of marketing.
The jobs are there. It's more competitive to find the opportunities you're looking for. Certainly things are picking up in the energy sector because there's all talk about power and how are we going to power all these data centers to keep the AI work running.
And another tip is to not just apply through the company's website. Try and track down the hiring manager and email them directly. If you're currently unemployed, consider contract or temporary work. You can also take a class to develop new skills or even volunteer. That'll help you explain any resume gaps. All right, and with that, we are going to wrap things up here for the news on WTOC Plus. We appreciate you spending part of your morning with us. We'll be back in just about 40 minutes during the news at noon with 2 major things you might want to be looking out for. First off, we'll have the latest on the I-16 crash, which again is shutting down parts of I-16 near the 37th Street connector, at least until mid-afternoon. We'll also have a CBS special report as former Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro is going to be in a New York courtroom to be arraigned on narco-terrorism charges. You can catch all that at the top of the hour on WTOC, Channel 11 specifically. And in the meantime, you can always head on over to our website to get the latest updates. Thanks for watching, and here's Local News Live.